नहमदुहु व नसल्ली अला रसूलिल करीम अम्मा बa'द बिस्मिल्लाहिर रहमानिर rahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Welcome and thank you for joining the Wayfarer's Path, the the Wayfarer's Path session, in which we talk about how to lead life as an active Muslim, a involved Muslim in an increasingly discordant world. Right? And this week's topic is how to be a man, a true man, if you will. Sorry, let me just what it means to be a man, a Muslim man, right? Something that this Kinza Cola, by the way, I highly recommend it. I don't highly recommend the cola itself, but drinking cola itself. But if you have to choose a local alternative. I have guests over, so I'm allowing myself this indulgence. So, what it means to be a man, a Muslim man, right? Not just any man. So these days we have this crisis, if you will, about what's spoken about in the secular world about masculinity, femininity, gender roles. And it's been a long time in the coming, but I don't know if it's speaking. I hope it's speaking because it's a very confused situation that we see all around us. And thankfully, within our shores, in our countries, lands that we take for granted, these are issues that are not being faced with the same fury that we are seeing in civilizations that are its biggest proponents, the West, if you will. Right? But nonetheless, we are seeing a constant assault on our shores, and this idea that what is the role of men, what is the role of men, what is the role of women? Do we follow the uh, the tradition? And I'm not just talking about the religious tradition. I'm talking about cultural traditions, which definitely had lots of issues with it. None of it due to what Islam says, but still had a lot going for it compared to what we have today, right? I mean, we have a free reign in which people, as individuals, it's the fetishization of the individual, where they can practice their individuality to the maximum extent possible. But we don't see a flowering of happiness, or depending on which survey you follow. But we don't see an effusion of happiness exploding across the lands where this is practiced. Now, the thing is that okay, fine. I think this topic has been beaten to death, uh, even though it's something that won't go away. So I'm not going to bore you too much. And frankly speaking, also, um, it's a habit of mine, and it's a bad habit of mine to be critical, to be judgmental, and to be judgmental, right? Not to say that what's happening is right, but this idea that one needs to secure one's own wicket almost solely. 99.9% of the time for 99.9% of people, it's about securing one's own wicket. They are the mashayikh, they are the masters, the spiritual masters, the ulama, the complete ulama, the fulfilled ulama, um, people who are doing dawah, people who are working genuinely for religion, who are doing charitable causes with the Islamic bent. So those people perhaps they can focus on other people, and they probably have a duty to focus on other people. But for persons like myself, securing one's own wicket is what is critical. And for whatever again it's worth, whoever is listening to this, I'm quite sure you fall within that bracket. That yes, it's all bad that's happening, and we can criticize ad nauseum, but it's infinitely more fruitful to uh, to focus on oneself, right? And this week's topic was suggested by is uh, a very dear Salik of Shaykh Saad, and a dear friend of mine also. Um, I think he suggested quite a few of the bayāns recently. So he's doing a great job of helping me out in topics to talk about. I had another idea, but nonetheless, this is what I settled on. this definition of what it is to be a man. One other thing this person, and I'll start off with this. One other thing that this person did say was, don't just talk about being a father and a husband. But I will say that this Salik is extremely spoiled. The reason why you and I may not want to talk about just being just, I think it's probably 90% of the job, just being a father or a husband, um, and not to be critical of him, but I think maybe he is forgetting, we are forgetting our place and where we came from, right, and where we are now, where it's Alhamdulillah, an amazing spiritual evolution, an amazing Islamic evolution, and amazing practical evolution that talking about being a Muslim father or a Muslim husband is something that a Salik, that this person doesn't want to talk about because it's done and dusted in a way, right? Very long way to go, of course. A very long way to go, of course, but it's done and dusted, right? I mean, done and dusted in the sense that it's a front and center role. It's a recognition. It's at the forefront of uh, what this Salik considers his duty, and me also, right? I really, for me, being a husband and a father is at the forefront of everything I do. And again, in his defense, this is also something where I was like, yeah, this is clear. I mean, what's to talk on this, right? Let's talk about real topics. But I think we forget that the reason that I and him think like this is because purely because of the role of our Sheikh, the teachings of our Sheikh, the imprinting of our Sheikh's message onto our hearts, right? Our Sheikh who is connected to his Mashayikh, our Sheikh who is connected in the inshallah unbreakable chain that leads all the way to Janabi Muhammadiyah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, Shafiul Muzbeen, Rahmatul Alameen, Sayyidina Muhammadur Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam. That our Sheikh, it is because of his teachings and his instructions and his focus and his focus of tawajjuhat, his concentration on us, his teachings of us, his constant work on us, that has made us reach a point where a Salik does considers this thing to be, tick marked a long time ago. In fact, why are we even on this topic? Let's move to the real topics, right? So, Alhamdulillah, um, and which would be my first message, which would be my first this thing about what it means to be a man. To be a man means to have a father figure, right? Is to have someone who is a mentor, a guide, a lead. Okay, to not be so foolish as to consider oneself to be the fount of wisdom, the fount of strength, bravery, chivalry, honor, um, all these things that we typically ascribe to men, right? Um, and in this case, the ultimate mentor being a sheikh, right? I should probably, again, maybe it's, I'm talking so much about this Salik, but I should remind myself also that I should preface every, and I believe I do for considerable amounts of the bayans that I do, I should preface every single bayan of mine in the name of my sheikh also, after doing Bismillah, saying Nahmadu wa salli ala Rasulil Kareem, amma ba'd, uh, you know, doing all these things before, reading Quranic ayat if it's to set the stage for the bayan. But somewhere at the top of that should be that everything I am today is because of my sheikh. Everything I am, everything that is good inside me is because of my sheikh, right? Who teaches us that the real thermometer of one's performance, barometer of one's performance is how your home people talk about you, right? The ultimate, um, the ultimate deciders, the ultimate feedback givers, right? So this is because of my Sheikh, my spiritual father, who uh, who instilled upon me something that I take for granted. That again, so I want to talk about the Salik. I should speak for myself. That I take for granted right now, right? There's such a sea change in me that this thing I take for granted. That being a Muslim, uh, yeah, I really strongly believe, I know that being a good father and a good husband is what equates to being a good Muslim, right? Uh, how did Bibi Aisha Raziyallahu anha talk about her husband, Nabi Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, right? In what terms does she speak about Nabi Karim Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam? And the role that she played in transmitting the ahadith and so much of the sunnah and the fiqh that we base uh, our madhab on, right? So yeah, being the ultimate husband, being the ultimate father, Bibi Fatma Radhiyallahu anha, how Nabi Karim Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam would behave towards her. He, the दोनों जहानों का सरदार, would stand up in love and uh, in love of his daughter, in other like in etiquette, excellent etiquette. Nabi Karim Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam had excellent etiquette, perfect manners, right? And what is so much of our teachings in the Sufi and the Naqshbandi Tariqat, in Tariqat in general, in Islam in general, right? Excellent manners, um, and how Nabi Karim Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam embodied that in perfection. So I'm going about this point again and again, but I can't repeat this enough that we are spoiled Salikin of Shaykh Saad, those who are faithful, like this Sheikh, like this Salik, is towards his Sheikh, that uh, that thankfully, despite my best efforts, my Sheikh, and through his focus on me, that we think that this thing is, like I said, done and dusted, being a good father and a good husband, right? So, in fact, even more than being a good son, right? I mean, I think there is more than enough cultural and religious precedent and uh, cultural tradition in which respect to the parents is considered paramount. It's part and parcel of cultural sensibilities. One doesn't even need to talk about it, right? So I'm not even going to talk about it as a good son. I think there is a good um, uh, towards the parents. There is a strong drive to maintaining that still, even in the shores that we were speaking about, even the West. Um, it's very weak, but still it's somehow there. But being a good husband and a good father, I think there's not enough spoken about it, right? Parents have rights, but so do children. Mothers have rights, definitely, many times over, but so do our wives, right? And I understand that as a son, uh, knowing what a critical, pivotal, foundational role parents play in just the survival of the child, transmitting of knowledge, raising them, clothing them, feeding them, educating them, spending sleepless nights. Um, so it can cause confusion. When you are when you a partner enters your life and you feel this need to balance between someone who was cared for you, nurtured you, brought you up, and made you who you are for their entire life, right? And basically expended their life effort on raising you to a healthy adult individual that you are. So I can understand this confusion with this need to balance between a mother and a wife is there, or parents and children, right? Children are in the same situation that you were for your parents, and they pulled out all stops to take care of you, right? So anyhow, I think you get the point, right? I think I was told that don't just talk about this, but I've gone on and on about it. But I can't emphasize this enough. Being a good son and a good husband. It's so good. I don't know why people go for Pepsi still. The Pepsi flavor is also excellent. Um, yeah, so I still, sorry, Salik, who told me not to talk on this topic. Sorry, not sorry. But I think it's very important to emphasize this point. Look, being a good husband means that you got to support for your wife, right? Who is shouldering not a burden, I was going to say of the kids, this responsibility, this enormous responsibility, shouldering this enormous responsibility of not just physically nourishing the kids, but also their spiritual, emotional, educational nourishment, mental nourishment, right? And uh, uh, if men like to see themselves as leaders, they obsessively, and it's understandable. I think it's a fundamental drive in men. But to be see themselves as leaders, what bigger leadership than leadership begins at home, and leadership doesn't mean to be a Genghis Khan, uh, uh, to shout uh, kids or wife into submission, but to act as a um, if you just using analogy of a flower, to act as that nourisher through water, through sunlight, to allow them to grow into their full capabilities. Not just your children, but also your wife, right? Um, she has her own dreams also, right? She has her own desires also. She has her own ambitions also. And I'm not just talking about this this disease almost, if you will, that ambition and drive equates to building a professional career. I'm not saying it's not right. My wife, Alhamdulillah, is a very accomplished student, professional, everything, by all means. And again, thanks to my Sheikh also. While there was initial hesitation, ignorance, I would say, thanks to the guidance of my Sheikh, I currently even strongly encourage her to look at her professional career also. But of course, keeping in mind that the children are front and forefront. And as a father, my career is also not the most important for me, thanks to the teaching of my Shaykh. My children, my family, my deen is at the forefront. And what that means, actually, my sole thing is my deen, as my Shaykh has taught, as our Shaykh teaches us. At the forefront is our deen. And what is deen? Our way of life. A way of life that consists of multiple facets: father, son, husband, colleague, neighbor, a friend. I really don't like to talk about that also. But all these are things uh, that is at the forefront of my current existence, thanks to my Shaykh Saad, thanks to my Shaykh, right? Point I was going to make over here is yeah, so my career is not even at my forefront. Yes, I go out and work full time, and I work hard, and I also am ambitious to be the best at whatever it is that I do, right? But because of the way Allah has created uh, humanity, in which men have a certain greater role in certain tasks, and women have a greater role in certain tasks. But fundamental to me, is not are not those tasks. It's what those tasks are. Those that the fact that those tasks are means towards an end. The ultimate end is to get to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? But one of the minor, not insignificant, minor but not insignificant, not minor, another major this thing to purely to get to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is to be that leader by starting at home and largely by being at home, right? Uh, by being that leader and yeah, so the professional career is the means to the end of raising and nurturing my children and being a good support to my wife so that the current and future generations of the Ummatul Muslimin are prepared. Just imagine if all of us were approaching it in this way. If we were to hand over uh, this nurturing to mobile phones, to maids, or just whoever, right? But just I'm busy doing whatever insignificant thing it is that has got my latest fancy career, just pure mobile phone addiction. Just today I was observing, even myself, but I was observing when I was driving back, literally I saw so many people just on their mobile phone. I saw this father with his kid, and the guy didn't mean badly, but he was smiling at her and looking at the mobile phone with the bastard in his hand. And again, what to talk about others, I see that a lot in myself also, which is why I've committed to buying a dumb phone this week, inshallah. And next week or next week, I'll be having an update bayān on progress on the mobile phone. But the point I'm trying to make is, yeah, whatever latest addiction or fancy or affliction has, whatever our latest affliction has got our fancy, I think pales in significance, pales not just in significance but also in a sense of fulfillment compared to being a good father and a good husband, right? And this is everything that our Shaykh taught us, right? So even when I would think about my own uh, priority list, it would be deen, family, religion, family, deen, way of life, religious way of life. Such a bad translation, right? This is why we must know our our this thing, Arabic, Urdu, which draws from Arabic, for the depths that these words represent. So most important, most fundamentally to me, in the descending order of hierarchy, would be deen, family, I think it's friends, neighbors, and myself, and uh, and then work. Right? And one can argue that maybe there should be some changes in the hierarchy. Like I think one can plausibly argue that health is really critical, right? If you don't do health well, how will you take care of your family? And I've really seen that in my life because of strength training. Uh, I'm really able to uh, be a more useful member of my family unit, right? Being healthy, sleeping on time, all these things, they help me be a more fulfilling father and wife. I'm not speaking on their behalf, I'm speaking for myself that I feel more fulfilled because of it. I feel that I'm able to do a less bad job because of it, right? So I think you get the point, right? That at the core, being a man, a real man, a Muslim man, fundamentally means being a good husband and father. I think these are really at the core. These are really, really, really at the core. Because if you do this right, uh, um, everything else falls in place, right? The sadaqah, providing for your children and for your wife is also sadaqah. And I believe, confirm it, I believe the most eminent sadaqah, right? So why is it that so much emphasis is being placed on something that's so beloved to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that was so beloved to Nabī Karīm sallallahu alaihi wasallam, sadaqah, charity, that it's giving a to these individuals who you would probably have given to anyways, you consider as part of your biological drive, uh, but still giving giving for their needs is considered charity. is considered the highest form of charity, right? The highest form of sadaqah. This is not showing your greatness, it's showing the greatness of the kids and the family, right? The wife, and how the value of that sadaqah increases manifold by providing for these individuals, right? So it shows their significance, not mine, this provision. So if it's not clear to you, you got to be a good husband and you got to be a good father, great husband, great father. This is what being a Muslim, especially in this day and age, it was always the case, but especially in this day and age where uh, this is so critical. Again, drawing to Nabi Kareem Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, who else to read as an example, right? Uh, he was a husband to multiple wives, and everyone's attested to his giving justice to it. Uh, uh, the mother of the faithful, right? Who went on to achieve in great things in their own right, amazing things in their own right, right? But, driven by their husband, motivated by their husband, uh, given the by their husband, Janabi Muhammadiyah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Aap sallallahu alaihi wasallam, right? And what a perfect father he was also, right? Where through his daughter, especially as a Bibi Fatma, radhiyallahu anha, the progeny of Nabi Karim Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam set forth in this world, where they exist even to this day. So what else is there? I mean, there's the 80-20 rule, and 20% through 20% I've covered 80% of where it is to be a man. Yeah, and there's one last point, one last this thing. I think, and in this day and age, even more, I was in the Guardian newspaper and they were talking about the dating habits, right, of younger generations these days, uh, in the West, obviously, right? And I don't want to speak for the women because uh, they should speak for themselves. I can speak for men, or I'll try to speak for men, or at least speak for myself, putting myself in their shoes of what I hear. I can understand some of it. Not because I think it was right or it is right, but I've been through it and I suffered immensely because of it. You know, being one part of becoming an adult, one facet is to take care of other people. That through your hands, with Allah's blessings and Allah's sustenance, that you take care of other people, right? And charity work is all well and good, but the greatest charity is towards one's own family, right? So you can be the best Mother Teresa figure and great, and there is uh, immense reward in that. But I think to be a great husband and father, and then to be a great charitable person to society, that is the right way to go about it, right? And the point I'm trying to make over here is that, yeah, so part of becoming an adult is to uh, take part in a relationship, to become a partner and companion to the opposite gender, and to provide for each other. In the case of Islam and the rightful way, uh, through through marriage and the institution and the Sharia that we have set up to govern this relationship, right? So, but what I saw over there was men who were uh, not willing to commit because of this standardization of relationships, right? Too much choice. Um, Again, I won't go towards the women's side, but the men's side, just even if the pool is stacked against men, obviously, still this leading to not constructive understanding that okay, this means one needs to settle into a healthy relationship, but a resentment against women. And again, the women who are no hajis over there, uh, but speak for yourself, right? Men, speak for yourself. You're contributing towards the problem. And their solution is resentment becoming this caricature of supposedly some example from the animal kingdom. And can you believe it? There's a talk about hierarchy and alpha male and how it is in gorilla and chimpanzees and the animal pack. Just look at this. How crazy is it? We're taking our inspiration from the animal kingdom. Huh? You want to degenerate into becoming a monkey, right? You want to take an example on how you should behave as a male, how you should behave in a family unit, how you should relate to the female gender by emulating animals. That already says a lot. But instead of engaging constructively, this is where a lot of the men are going towards. Some of the men say that no, we need to become the best versions of ourselves so that we can land a partner. Yeah, I mean, how selfish a way is that to approach society, right? Um, how troublesome a way to approach. Let's say you do become this version of a complete man that you think, which is purely material, it's purely worldly. It's purely about I have the best clothes, I dress well, I am the best version of myself. But because the niyat is so off, right? It's not, even as a Muslim, the purpose is to be the best version of yourself, but the best version of yourself because you want to emulate Nabi Kareem Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam to attain unto Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala, right? Whereas this is more turning completely a sort of an extremely arrogant, egoistic, giving nourishment to the self, to the ego sort of approach, right? That I am who I am, and therefore I'm being the best version of myself. That's another approach that I saw that was being developed over there. Some men were just giving up, like we don't want anything to do with this. We're just gonna sit at home or just play games, just disappear from the world, sink into a personal, what I think is a hellish existence. And again, I promise you. Okay, so if let's say I am being judgmental, and if you're seeing that also, you're probably right. That's I mentioned earlier also that it is my tendency, but still with sincerity, with empathy, because I was that person myself also, right? I didn't want to settle down. I was confused, uh, and society is contributing towards it enormously, right? We're living in an increasingly discordant world. So the way out from it is to lead life as an active Muslim, right? And even if you want Islam, right, it doesn't catch your fancy. Um, Still, the worldly way, the modern way, this discordant way, is not the right way to go about it. If it was, all these different attempts at trying to become a man would achieve something, right? Instead, we have a mass horde of increasingly angry people who are voting in even more angry people to create a world that is falling apart, right? And this is not to blame those people voted in, but also and equally those who are voting them in, right? Political systems having to, uh, political and economic systems reflecting most evidently what is going right or wrong in society, right? Who are these heroes? Last week we spoke about heroes in society. Who are the heroes of these people? People, the wealthy top, let's say five, six people. What what lives do they have at home? What lives do they have at home? Again, this proves the point, right? That you can be the best anything you want, but you can't even get your home right. What do you think you're going to achieve? Your creation, what you create from your hands, comes from the state of your soul. And if your state of your soul is so corrupted, it's become so mean that you can't even share your life, parts of your life, which requires you to be vulnerable and to be modest and to move with forbearance. And I'm saying all negative things. Actually, it's and to enjoy it also and to live it fully and to share and to laugh. and all these positive things. And I don't want to say negative things. They're not negative things, but you're a human, but you share the good and I'm running out. I can't know the vocabulary right now. The good and the bad, right? But if you can't even do this with another human being, bring them into your private fold, how can you bring about good in life, right? So the people you're voting in, the people you emulate, are a reflection of you and your society and what you are pursuing. And what you are pursuing is not, it can't be the right thing, right? Why are we moving towards an increasingly discordant world? So, yeah, this was supposed to be the last thing, but I dragged it on perhaps more than it should have. But yeah, I can really see a lot of myself when I was in the Netherlands, and just totally confused and not settling down and thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that I came to Pakistan and found a Sheikh and I am everything today. I am everything that I am today, a real man, you know. Uh, I say it with utter confidence and pride and thankfulness, uh, all of those things, all of them ascribed, all of them because of my Sheikh, right? All my masculinity, all my being a proper provider, all my being a proper male. And again, I'm not talking about being an alpha male. I'm the complete anti-type of an alpha male. I don't fit the prototype at all. But again, this alpha male obsession is something that's a creation of the West. Yes, there are alpha males. If I think among the Sahaba Ikram, Hazrat Umar Raziyallahu anhu was a prototypical, you can say, alpha male, right? But there's also, and if that's what you want to emulate, and that's what Allah has given to you, please go ahead and knock yourself out. But make sure it's steeped in the Sunnah. Otherwise, you're going to become an unbearable alpha male. One of which was, you can say, Abu Jahl also, right? Abu Jahl was also right. Excuse me. What was the dua of Nabī Karīm Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam? And look how the greatness of Nabī Karīm Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, right? Our Sheikh often says that Nabī Karīm Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam did dua even for the dushman of no, for the zalim of the ummah, right? Um and to extend that, uh, also for zalims in general, I'm just taking this example. He prayed that either Abu Jahl, whose name was, I'll look it up today, I'm forgetting, Abu Jahl or Hazrat Umar Raziyallahu anhu, joined the fold of Islam, right? And then we all know how history unfolded. But yeah, my point is that uh, being a male, and this is liberating, right? I'm hardly the example of, like I said, an alpha male. But Alhamdulillah, and I have all sorts of, like uh, anxieties and insecurities, and sometimes not being able to stand up for myself, establishing boundaries. But that's okay, because one thing that my Shaykh really taught me, that you are who you are, but you need to, also establish what is right, right? And also draw Sunnah Sunnah. And that means establishing boundaries. It means working towards being secure. It means to work towards um, not being, not requiring approval and gratification from here and there, right? You only get it from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? It means all these things that make you into a male, a strong male, a masculine male, a confident male, a male that uh, provides for his family, nurtures his family, learns from his family, is both strong and at the right times uh, open and flexible, right? It means to show to show love and laughter, and also anger at times, to establish boundaries, right? It means to uh, it means to teach and to learn. It means to be generous, but sometimes hold back also, so that to teach and to learn, right? So this idea that being a man, a complete man, that draws purely from Islam, is one that is diverse, and as long as it draws from the Sunnah of Nabī Karīm Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, it will enable you to flourish as a human being, like I did, right? I compare myself from 2017, February 2017. I think it was February 18, 2017, that I came back from the Netherlands. I was a completely empty shell, burned from inside, outside, just yeah, skeleton. And now look at me today. Okay, I am Alhamdulillah. I'm no longer skeleton. I'm now overweight, strong, but my insides are literally healthier. I stopped smoking cigarettes, but mostly like there was a soul change inside of me, right? I could never imagine being a husband. I could not take care of myself, let alone where I am today. I with great pride, because of the instructions and the complete nurturing by my Sheikh, um, feel like a man, right? Feel like I'm nurturing. Feel like I yeah, have a nurturing role within society. So yeah, देखो, Allah guides one's tongue ideally, and the idea was to speak not about being a husband and a son. Actually, ended up being mostly being a husband. Yeah, I guess being a real man means being a good husband. If you're a good husband, everything works out, man. The kids also, they see a safe, nurturing environment, and they say, and it gives them space to grow and become full, wholesome adults. A Look, actually, if you think also again, Nabī Karīm Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, a lot of the events around his Nabuwat, the especially the initial phase, the revelation, it was purely around husband and wife, right? What is the revelation? It was the sending down of the final and ultimate mercy, the ultimate message of Nabī Karīm Sallallahu of Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala, right? Through Nabī Karīm Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. That first epochal moment that has led to this infinite mercy for the ummah thereon. But at that epochal moment, it was the husband, it was the wife consoling the husband, right? A husband who was a husband. I mean, there's books with oceans expended cannot will not be able to write on the qualities of Nabī Karīm Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam as just a husband. Okay, just one facet of his personality. But this seems to be the most profound personality. This seems the one of the most profound aspects of his personality, being an excellent husband. So I think that says it all, right? So to be a real man is to be a great husband, first and foremost, to be a great father, great son, that's all there. And all the other things that I can speak about because, well, Allah didn't mean it to be so. But just to cover that quickly, to be a great friend, friendship is a huge blessing. To be a real man is to be a real friend, a trustworthy friend. Uh, uh, yeah, trustworthy friend, a friend, right? Hazrat Abu Bakr Siddiq Radhiyallahu anhu, Amirul Mu'mineen, Hazrat Abu Bakr Siddiq Radhiyallahu anhu was one of the most dear persons to Nabi Kareem Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. He shares the final abode in this world, and I don't know about the hereafter. Just check that, but I mean, seems the next step, inshallah. But what an amazing relationship, right? So to be a man is to be a good friend also. right? But everything I said about men also applies to women. Be good wives and good mothers, which I think comes slightly easier, but to be good wives also comes easier to men. To be good fathers, I suppose. To be great friends. So all these things are applying for women also, right? But I just want to speak from a position of authority from the gender and the background that I have. So to be a good friend, to be a good neighbor, to fulfill the rights of the neighbor, um, to be a good colleague, an honest colleague, a trustworthy colleague, a colleague who fulfills his covenant and the work that he is supposed to deliver, uh, to be a good citizen, right? To be just a good ummati, which encompasses all these things, right? So I just spoke about these two things mainly, being a father and a son, being a good father and a good husband. And I think that, yeah, pretty much covers 80% of the task at hand. Get this right, and I think everything else will follow. Wow, I'm really sorry. I've been really over time. I wasn't intending to. And usually I find it quite hard to go on and on about a topic. And I've written quite a few things. Uh, yeah. If you have any questions, please fire away. You have 30 seconds. I'll take 3, 4 gulps of this Kimla Cola. And if I don't get any questions, we'll call it an evening. Okay, I guess not. So thank you everyone for joining this session of the Wayfarer's Path, in which we spoke about what being a real man meant, being a real Muslim man meant, and I think we covered most of it. So then, until next week, thank you for joining. I wish you a great week ahead, and speak to you uh, if Allah has ordained it. So, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.